All right. Today we got another episode of the business blind spots exposed. And today we've got a really interesting topic. But before we get to that, there's a couple of things I want to do. I want to explain to you what business blind spots exposed is all about. It's about the idea that, at least for myself, as I've gone through business in the past, as all the companies I've run or worked with, there's things that I know, there's things that I don't know, but the dangerous stuff is the stuff that I don't know that I don't know. Those are my blind spots. I can't see them. I don't even know they exist. The purpose of this podcast is to start to show you what are those blind spots that you may have never seen before. We all have them. It's a matter of just seeing what they are so you're never surprised. So, on the podcast today, we're going to be talking about some insurance and how the insurance industry takes a look at data. But let me tell you a little bit about what's coming up in the recent week and coming couple of days and weeks. We've got some pretty exciting guests who are talking about blind spots that they see from their areas of expertise. On February 15th, we've got Sherry McManus and Lou Everett at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the title of their podcast there is How to Think Bigger with Data. They're going to show you how data helps senior leadership in a company think better and get rid of those blind spots and find the blind spots. On 2/12, we've got Rich Camacho at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The title of that podcast is How Hiring Better Employees Became Better with Data. There's a way you can use data to get better people on board. On February 9th, Sherry Spencer Bachman, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, from the creator of the $1 Million Climb. She's going to talk to us about that $1 Million Climb program that she created and the steps that you can step into to unlock your company. And that brings us to today. Today, we've got Zander Galloway, who runs an insurance brokerage. And the topic for today is data. How do insurance carriers and brokers look at that information to make judgments about the insurance that they give you? Zander, how are you today?
Hey, Vinay, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm pretty excited here because you've been in and around insurance for quite some time. Tell me a little bit about that story yourself and the agency.
Sure. So my agency is People's First Insurance. We're in Rock Hill, South Carolina, which is about 30 minutes south of Charlotte, North Carolina. Family agency, family business, been in my family for several generations. So I've been here about 10 years, and I'm currently the president of the agency. And we have operations with commercial lines, and that's my area of expertise, commercial property casualty. We also have employee benefits and personal lines departments as well.
So, Xander, the thing that I wanted to cover today is these blind spots. Everybody's got them, right? As I kind of said at the top of the podcast. What do you see? What is the first thing that sticks out? You're constantly representing companies, but you're also representing the carriers.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see as blind spots? What's the first thing that pops up to you when I say that?
Well, I think there's a lot of, there's so many different directions we could go with that. I'll just say in general, the way that carriers, they're trying to understand the risks that any one business has. And by definition, they have to be conservative in their underwriting when they don't know the answer to a question. In any one business that is applying for insurance has a whole set of questions that they have to answer.
Mhm.
And the less data that gets passed along in the form of answers to questions or real-time data, the less information the carrier knows, the more conservative they have to be. And that can be disadvantageous to a business that is performing very well, that is doing all the right things, but that information is not getting passed on to the carriers. And so in general, one of the things that we try to do as an agency, as an advisor to our clients, is to help highlight, first of all, understand all the good things from a proactive standpoint that a business is doing, regardless of what risk issue we're talking about, whether it's fleet safety or workers' comp or anything else. Because the more information and the more data that a carrier has and an underwriter has about the proactive steps that you as a business are taking, the more you can be rewarded for that. So in general, the way that I see our job is one of two things. We have one of two jobs, two different jobs. Number one, it is getting that data to the carrier and understanding what it is that you are doing well and maybe not well, because we also want to make sure that the carrier is getting accurate information. But then beyond that, we want to help you, the client, really focus on those things, identify, you talked about blind spots, identify some blind spots that you might have, and help you be in a position to improve upon those issues, either with tools, resources we have in-house, third parties we can connect them to, or just bringing to light some things that they can fix themselves so that we can then turn around and tell that story to the carrier. So in many ways, I would say, data moving back and forth between client, agency, which is ourselves, and then the carrier. Sometimes it's just a coordination problem. The data's there, but it's just a matter of getting the right information back and forth between all the parties so that ultimately the coverages and the price that you have in the form of insurance premiums is as accurate of a representation as possible of your business.
I think there's a lot of things to unpack there. And I do want to reach out to the audience. We've got a number of people who are online. Please chime in and tell us if there's things that you need further clarification or things that we may be using as jargon between the two of us or lingo. Chime in, say, hey, what does that mean? Or ask specific questions. The purpose of this is to expose the blind spots. And if we're not exposing the blind spots, we're not getting where we're supposed to be going. So one thing that I heard you say was this idea that you're trying to build this picture. I think in terms of story or narrative, Zander, at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is facilitate getting the story from between two parties that know nothing about each other. I mean, the carrier really never talks directly to the business, and the business may not necessarily talk directly to the carrier. So you're kind of a storyteller in both directions. And the data, the way I think about it, and I made this analogy before, data is about the words in the story. You're supposed to tell stories to both sides. Am I presenting that correctly?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
And the reason that's important is if you are not giving data to a broker like yourself, you can't accurately represent it. And the insurance carrier is saying, look, I'm going to look at the risk that I know from the market, and I can't understand the person that I'm talking to who's trying to get the policy here. So they're just, they're going to be conservative by definition because they don't know who the hell you are. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And you said something that I think is spot on. The less information that they have. So let's back up for a second. Let's think about how insurance works. Big picture. And I'm painting a broad brush, but this is, we got to start with sort of the first principles of insurance. You are pooled if you are, you're insured by a carrier. You are in a big risk pool with a lot of other businesses. And because you're in a risk pool with a lot of other businesses, there's a lot of them that are performing pretty well. There's a lot of them that are performing terribly. There's a lot of them that are performing, average by definition. And so the less you're able to communicate about let's assume everyone that's listening to this, to some degree, you're best in class, right? You're taking, I think if you're even listening to this, you're interested in taking steps to improve something about your business, the profitability, the productivity, which ultimately reduces your risk. You're in the business of self-improvement. And so if you are sort of on the top end of the uh, sort of the top end of the risk pool, so to speak, um, your premiums um, are you want the carrier to know. You want the carrier to know all the good things you're doing, because the less they know about you, the more you're kind of getting dragged back to the mean. The more the market is dictating uh, your um, your pricing. Now, let's be very clear for a minute. The market's going to dictate your pricing anyways, but carriers often have discretionary credits that they can give if they really want to insure you, because you're better than average. You're a risk that they want because you're taking all the right steps. You're continuously improving. You're identifying risk issues and you're fixing them. And we can show that. That's the type of businesses that a carrier wants to insure. And if you can't show that, if we can't show that, that's often sort of one of our big jobs. They have no way of knowing that you're doing that. And so they're not able to give those credits. Your pricing is getting reverted back to sort of the mean. And in this moment in time, right, we're in February 2021, the insurance market for a lot of coverages, um, whether it's auto, commercial auto, which has been going up for a number of years. But now we're starting to see a lot of other, over the course of the last probably 9-12 months, we've seen a lot of lines of property casualty coverage start firming up. Underwriting process is getting more challenging. Carriers are looking more closely at the risks that they're seeing. Prices are going up. Coverages are starting to sort of get chopped up. And so it becomes that much more important that if you are doing the right things, that we want as much as possible your pricing to be less market dictated to the extent possible and more dictated by your good performance.